So hi, we're here to discuss Google Classroom, and you can see that I'm going to be sharing my screen a lot with you today. And the reason for that is to just kind of help you see what I'm seeing. So first and foremost, we have our Google Classroom. Oh no, yeah, there we go. And I can see already that some of you have hopped on, which is helpful. And a lot of us, I think, already have a Google Classroom set up, and now we're trying to figure out how to organize it and how best to use assignments. And I even did a little bit of work on including applications that you can add on to Google Classroom. So if you go to the stream, that's where you'll see the class code. And they just actually added a Meet link here as well, which is nice because then you can start a Google Meet if you don't want to use Zoom. And that is kind of another way to access your students if you're finding that you need some one-on-one time with them. It's really fast to do it that way, because if the kid's already logged into Google, then they can log into their Google Meet and you can have a face-to-face right away instead of sending them a Zoom code and all of that sort of thing. But my goal today, most of us have created a Google Classroom, but what you would do, I'm just going to fly through it. You're going to create a class instead of join a class, but your students would be joining a class and they would be putting in this code right here, which is what a bunch of you just did. Okay, so there's two ways to add students, and I find that most students know how to do that. Because Google Classroom is so well used in the district. But if you have any questions about adding students, you can feel free to pop that in the chat. But here's where I think I can be of a little bit of service. So I find that students right now are having a really hard time organizing their documents, organizing their assignments, and some of them are getting really anxious about what's due, what's extra credit, and how to know what they've missed and what they've accomplished, especially I know at the high school level, because we're doing a lot of credit, no credit assignments. And so it's really hard for them to know kind of week one, like, what am I missing? What did I successfully do? And then going back and looking at things is harder in Aspen if we're just kind of doing a week by week grade. So something that I want to encourage people to look at is if you go to on a teacher view, you can see that there's a stream. Is this too small for you guys to see? No, it's okay. So if you can see up here that there's a stream, classwork, people, and grades, right? Which I can access right here. So stream, classwork, people, and grades, right? So if you go to classwork, what I find really helpful is making these topics. And the reason for that is stream is a mess. What the stream does is it's just a Twitter feed. And so all it's doing is uploading everything you've ever assigned, uploading everything you've ever announced. And it's really hard for them to organize that. Right? Even if you're doing it in a really organized way, in a very thoughtful way, it's just really overwhelming to them, right? Because if you're doing 4 weeks assignments in 1 week, or 4 assignments in 1 week, then they're going to be going through and looking at all 4 of those assignments. So in classwork, you can break it down by week, by topic, right? Some of us might consider even kind of creating a large topic, right, that would include all of the stuff before Q4, just so that you can start with the distance learning stuff if you've already been using Google Classroom. And if you go to create right here, you'll see at the very bottom is where you can create a topic. Okay, and then you can go here and you can add a topic. That's one way to do it, right? But if you were to create an assignment, you can also go over here and you should see that there's a topic here, right? So you don't have to create a topic. You can also create a topic within the assignment itself, which is something I often do. I find, oh, this is something I hadn't thought of before, and I create a topic. So, so now to get back, one thing you can do to organize your materials is to create that topic, right, which is down at the bottom, okay? The other thing that you can do is really think about what you're assigning and how you want to create that assignment for your students. So if you're through the Classwork tab, which is where I just was, right down there, topics at the end, you can see that there's assignments, quiz assignments, questions, and materials. And when you think about what those can do for you and what those can do for your students, we'll be diving into that a little bit later. But assignments allow you to make a copy of an attachment, or you can have students edit the same attachment that you're working on, or they can view an attachment for themselves and then they have to make their own copy. Okay, but quizzes links you to Google Forms, okay, and then questions are discussion questions, and finally materials have no due dates. They have no, you know, it's not going to show up as work for them, and so that helps differentiate what is being introduced as content versus what I have to accomplish. Because if it's an assignment or a quiz or a question, you can put a due date next to it, which I strongly recommend you do, because we'll get to the gradebook a little bit later, but it helps you in the gradebook organize the way your assignments are held. So the other things that are really quick that I'm just going to leave up here are you can reuse a post, which means if you're making the same assignment for multiple classes, you can go back in and reuse it. Again, for organizational purposes, that helps with streamlining your topics, streamlining your titles, streamlining your attachments so that kids aren't confused about which week is which. And because sometimes we call things, you know, distance learning week 1, but then the next week we might call it week 2 distance learning. And I think it's really easy for them if everything looks exactly the same. So I just added a note here that I do think that those topics are much more useful for students than the stream, and it helps students organize materials because we can kind of help them do that. So now, can I get a thumbs up from you guys or a thumbs down if you guys are ready for me to kind of talk about different assignments? But are you understanding where I'm coming from? Like we're organizing the Google Classroom and you guys are okay to move forward? Okay. Thank you. So managing a Google Classroom, I think deciding the best way to assign for the task. Quizzes is something that I hadn't had a ton of experience with. I do now every day during my regular class when we were back at school, and I do that through discussion questions. But quizzes are something that I was playing a little bit more with just to be able to present it to you fine folks today. And what I think is really helpful is that it links to Google Forms. And the options here are rather endless. So I'm going to try to zoom in here. So just bear with me a second. Okay. So that should be easier to see. So a quiz is going to automatically kind of come up with this blank quiz Google form, right? If you say, if you want to create, right? And then you'll see here that you have your options, okay? So you can create for which class, you can assign the point value, you can have a due date, and the topic, okay? And all of that on the right-hand side here will help you organize for your students, okay? And the title here I have is Would You Rather? So you can have a multiple choice quiz, right? And quiz is just the word that Google Classroom uses, but really it's any sort of feedback that your students are giving you. You're just using this format to do so. It doesn't have to be an evaluative tool. So would you rather know the history of every object you touched or be able to talk to animals, right? It's a quick multiple choice, but therefore the kids aren't having to type it all in, and it just makes it a lot faster for you. You can also, if you are using this for evaluations, right, if you are trying to assess student learning, you can lock the Chromebook, which means that you are able to stop students from going from tab to tab to tab to tab, which might help with plagiarizing or trying to avoid plagiarizing and Googling and those kinds of things. But here are all the options. So I just showed you multiple choice. You can also do checkboxes, which means if you wanted to select more than one answer, so would you rather know the history of every object you touched or be able to talk to other animals? You could do both of those things. There's also a drop-down menu where you can select. And then even within these multiple choice, if you see down here, there's grids, which is really interesting because then you can kind of have kids select what they would rather and why. But I'll go into that a little bit later if you're interested. So now I'm gonna go back to 100%. Okay. So those are Google Forms, and I'm going to show you here. I don't want to do that one. Just what the would you rather looks like, okay? So you can see that 0 people have turned it in, but it's been assigned to the 3 people who have logged into Google Classroom. And then if I click on the would you rather, okay, you can import pictures, okay? So would you rather know the history of every object you touched or be able to talk to animals? I'm going to choose that. That's a quokka, fun fact. I will explain my response, okay, because I can choose multiple choice questions along with explanations, which I find really helpful. I used that a lot last year in my AP class because I wanted them to explain their reasoning for why they chose their multiple choice answer. Would you rather give up all drinks except for water or give up anything that was cooked in an oven? Oh, that's a tough one. I think I'm going to choose give up anything that was cooked in an oven because I don't think I can survive on water during a pandemic. So then I would submit. Okay, you can view your score if you wanted to make it a point value. Okay, and then if I get out of here, there we go. I can go to this. I can look at it. And then, hold on. I can, oh, it should let me edit. Sorry, folks. I'll show you on a different classroom. But you can actually look at the responses of students, which I find really helpful. Can I get a thumbs up if you would like to see one of my responses from another class? Like if you want to see the Google form that turns up when I actually do a Google form. Okay, so bear with me for a moment. You can see that these are just copies of the responses that pop up. I'm looking for, this was really helpful when we first took a break from school and we didn't know. It gives you the timestamp of when the students actually took the thing, so you can easily go through and figure out whether it was on time or late. I have it automatically collect email addresses. I had some multiple choice. So this was a multiple choice. Would you like to make up work? And some students said yes, or another option was I'm all caught up. And another option was no, but I don't think Yep, I did have somebody say no. Another choice was, would you like to meet as a class online, right? And so I went through and I can collect all of my students' data this way. And I find it a really easy way to assess. I had this is an open response. I had them provide contact information, and then I had them say, how are you doing? Is there anything I should know? And they could respond that way. And then what questions do you have for me? They could respond that way. But this collects all of my student data for all of my classes. And it's a really easy way to use a Google form and then have that information for myself later. So I love it for surveys. I love it for temperature checks. It's just an easy way for me to scroll through and kind of access all that information that kids might have for me. Okay. So can I get a thumbs up, thumbs down if you guys are ready to move on to just quick assignments, questions, material stuff? Cool. So Google Classroom, I'm sure you guys have all used assignments because that's what it's there for, right? I think the most important thing for assignments that I find helps students is the ability to add all of the links, not just some of them. But you can add document after document after document, as well as all of your links. So you can compile your entire assignment in one kind of section of Google Classroom, which I find is helpful for the kids, because then they're not looking for all of their materials spread out throughout Google Classroom, right? So here you'll see for a research project, I have 15 different links for them to use, because those were the articles that we used, as well as the assignment, as well as the overview of the entire kind of assignment itself, right? So they had to do the research observations is what they had to turn into me, but all of these other links helped them access their materials. So just keep that in mind. There's no limit to how many attachments or how many links or how many videos you can put into a Google Classroom assignment. And so it really can be a collect all for a project, which again, I think helps kids, because then they're not trying to find all of those different links on their stream, right? They're just going to one place. Google Classroom discussions. I'm just gonna blow this up so you guys can see a little better. So you can see here that you can plug in a question with any instructions. The question is what shows up on the stream, right? So it's just an automatic, like they already see it. They don't have to click on it to see more information. And then you can assign it to as many classes as you'd like, give it a point value, give it a due date. But then down here, you can have students can respond, but you can also stop them from responding, right? If you don't have that checkbox clicked, right, you can just have them respond for themselves, and then they can't click on anybody else's assignment, right? So if you're trying to control student behavior, that's a way to do that. And then kind of like what I said before, materials are really helpful for creating those needed documents, like we would, the packet of handouts and the packet of things. That's a good place to store your materials without having it have a due date on it, right? So they don't think they need to do anything if it's just content. And now is when we start getting into platforms that we can add on to Google Classroom. So give me a thumbs up, thumbs down if you guys are ready to move on. Cool. So Flipgrid is something I want to talk about, in addition to Screencastify, in addition to Edpuzzle and News ELA. So those 4 add-ons I find are really helpful. Flipgrid I just learned about in my grad class on technology, and it came at a good time. Flipgrid allows you to create a 90-second video, which means that you can reach out to students without being synchronous. It doesn't have to be a Zoom meeting. I know a lot of us, I was hearing in our kind of introductions, we're struggling to have students with us at the time we want them to be, right? We have struggles with them showing up at these Zoom meetings for many different reasons. So creating videos is an easy way. And I hate recording videos, and I hate doing these kinds of things. So I find that the 90 seconds is actually manageable. Because it doesn't overwhelm me. I don't feel like I have to talk and talk and talk, but I can just do a quick 90-second reach out to them. And what's fun about Flipgrid, this is just, you would automatically link it to your Google Classroom. You can see that you can do that here. You make it really easy to control who can join with the school email, okay? And then I can show you. And this I did for anyone who wants to. You see, that's me and my little one. So I created our own Flipgrid, which I'm going to show you in a second just to embarrass myself. But if you want to practice, you can log in and then you can do your own 90-second video to respond to me, which is what I like about the Flipgrid aspect. It's only 90 seconds. Kids can't talk for 30 minutes. But it's an easy way to do a discussion question or a check-in. They don't have to have their video on if they're not comfortable with that. But it is an easy way to have that kind of face-to-face interaction that we're really missing right now. So I'm gonna play this. I'm sorry.
Hi everybody, it's me and Ella here, just hanging out. I wanted to show you a couple quick things on Flipgrid. It's an easy way to do a quick tutorial or a quick message out to your students where you are in control of the environment and it's not a Q&A. So you've got filters. There we go. Isn't that fun? Yeah. And then you can do a few stickers if you want to add fun. This is more what the kids are going to get into. But I think it's nice that there's something playful. Let's do a little fairy. Okay, over here. Okay, and then really what I think I'm going to use this for, it's nice to have a whiteboard feature where you can type in and say, good morning. And then move that. There we go. And so you can type in whatever you need or have it already copied and pasted, and then you can plug it in. But it's nice that you can use this as a kind of screencast as well. And so it's already giving me the timer for 10 seconds being up. So we're going to say bye-bye.
All right, so you get the idea there, but if you want to play around with it, that's just my first take. A lot of the things I'm going to show you or that I'm going to give you access to are just one take. And like I said, I'm easily embarrassed. This isn't something I feel comfortable doing. I never would have done it if we weren't distance learning, but I think the more we're practicing and just kind of letting kids in on it, the more engaged they'll be. And I've already had some students talk about some of the videos that I put up yesterday because it was helpful for them to just see what they needed to do for assignments. And so that's Flipgrid. It's really easy. Like I said, if you want to play around, you can totally connect to mine. Then Screencastify gives you 5 minutes instead of 90 seconds, right? So if you want a little longer, if you want to do kind of what I'm doing right now, I'm sharing my screen. It's not just my face teaching you content. And a screencast allows you, as you can see here, to look at your desktop, to do your browser tab, or if you really wanted, you could just do a video. And then you can use your microphone. I like embedding the webcam because it is nice for people. I don't know if you guys agree, but seeing my face kind of makes it feel a little bit more real, and it makes me feel like I'm here and it's not just hearing my voice. So there's something about that that makes it feel more human. I'm not going to, I'll show you just, if you click on this, you'll see that I go through this content called News ELA. And it takes you to the video and it lets you kind of talk about it. So you are going to be totally welcome to check that out. It's also up on my stream. You can see it right here, the Screencastify and News ELA. Okay, so you guys have access to that, but I'm not going to waste your precious time because I want to get to questions and answers. But it allows you to take up to 5-minute videos. It helps students step by step, I think, through technology. I know having kiddos use things for the first time is really hard, and a lot of us are using stuff for the first time now, and so just being able to kind of take them through step by step, kind of like what I'm doing with you, helps people understand a little bit better. It helps them model, and it could be used to run with new content or a PowerPoint or a document, however you want to do that. News ELA is just a way to access articles, and if you want to learn more about it, it's in you can click on that link. You can click on it here. It embeds automatically. You can import your kiddos into Google Classroom. You can see if they've actually read the article and clicked on it, let alone done any of the actual work. But that kind of documentation I've been finding really helpful, because then I know who hasn't clicked on things and who has. And I know not all of us are ELA teachers. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that the categories are obviously history, ELA, and humanities based. Like that's where you're going to get a lot of it. But they have some really great science and math articles about careers, but also about just things that are happening in the world. So don't feel like if you're not an ELA teacher, you can't use it. And then Bob, I don't know if you know this, or anybody else who teaches special ed, and I know somebody else is in an inclusion classroom, but you can change the Lexile levels, which is huge. So for my students who have, they're all articles from the New York Times and from the Washington Post and from NPR, and they get them, they just reformat them for high school students, and then they have people go in and change the content and the reading comprehension levels. So it makes it incredibly accessible, especially at this time when we're not there to kind of go through it with them. So that's really helpful. Another form that I've been using a lot of is Edpuzzle. Can I get a thumbs up, thumbs down if you guys have heard of it? Yeah. So what I like about it is that it allows you to see, I'm not going to go through how to do it if you guys have, well, I might go through how to do it. But I want to get to Q&A, like I said. So if you want to talk more about it, we can. But if you look at this, you should be able to see, right? It says watched, the grade that they got on the questions, when they watched it, whether it was turned in, and you can see that the green is 100%. That means that they watched 100% of the video. The yellow means that they stopped somewhere, and the red means that it was less than a quarter. And again, that helps me know, okay, this kid at least knows how to access the video, where this kid might have no idea. And so it gives me an idea who I can reach out to, so that I'm not wasting my time on kids who are just being reluctant, right? Or kids who haven't found time to get into it. And so that I find really helpful. All right, questions. I'm going to unmute you, and we're gonna spend some time on questions, but I hope that was helpful. And yeah, so let me know where we can go. What do you want to know? How do I do this? There we go. Go ahead.
Do our So one of my questions takes us back to the beginning. I think I'm just trying to, so we have a plan for the week of learning, and each day holds some readings or tasks to do with each kind of topic that we've done. Could I assign a topic within a topic or no?
No.
Okay. I didn't think so.
But what I've done, so I'll show you with another class. So I have the same title is the Q4 distance learning.
Yep.
Right. But then I have like my videos here for explanations.
Yep.
And then I split it up. So there's the extra credit part, but it's all called the same thing to begin with. And then the required part. And my students have found that a little bit easier, because before it was just all Q4 distance learning, and that was too much.
Right.
Because it was all just showing up here. And then if you look at grades, what I like about this is that you can see like who's missing, who's done late,
Yeah.
the 100%, right? So that's why I strongly recommend doing a due date, even though I let kids turn stuff in late, you know, like whatever, it's up to you. This isn't Aspen. But I like having a due date because it sets it up by those dates, right? So you can see
Yeah,
it
that's a
here.
good point.
And then for me, getting it into Aspen makes it a lot easier too, right? Because I don't have to go back and figure out when I assigned it. It's just automatically right there.
Yep.
So, what up? Is anyone struggling with student engagement? Because I am. So I'm
Oh, yeah.
alone.
Yep.
Do you know that you can see which students opened a document?
No.
So if I go to my class and I look at this document. Oh my God, I pulled it. There is a lovely, do you guys see this weird little arrow in the corner?
Mm-hmm.
Have you clicked on that before?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to tell me who's looked at it. So again, this helps with student engagement. Not that I get to see them face to face, but I can at least see, okay, I know you know that you've clicked on it. So these are the teachers and the non-Google Classroom kids. It automatically links your classes. So I can see that it's English 3 Block 2, English 3 Block 1. Those are my Google classes, right? And then I can see who's actually looked at it. Right?
Cool. So if nothing's there, they haven't looked at it yet.
Mm-hmm. And so, and then you can see
Oh, wow.
when they look at it, like how many people are looking at it on what day. So if I'm assigning stuff for Friday and I find that they're looking at it on Friday, that tells me a lot. Right? Because if I'm dropping it in their inbox on Monday morning and they're not looking at it until Friday, then I'll know. So whereas if I look at my Gothic and horror students, I'm sure they will have looked at it. Because my English 3 are the ones that we're having trouble contacting. So if you look at this, see someone's there right now. Right, and you can see all of my students have looked at that document, and these are the kids who haven't.
Okay.
Okay, so that gives you a better idea of what it looks like. And again, you can look at the viewing trend. There you go.
Yeah, especially if you've asked them to read something
Mm-hmm.
and they've answered questions but not read it.
Mm-hmm. It helps a lot.
That's good.
It is, yeah. Does anyone want to see me create something on our Google Classroom just so that you've seen what it looks like?
I just went and hit the arrow on one of our classrooms. I
Yeah,
never knew
how'd
it
it
was
go?
there. Dang it.
Huh? I know, it stinks. Okay. I'm trying to give wait time, but if you, so I only had, oh, so I'm getting some more people. So feel free to log into this if you want any of the documents that I have.
Yeah.
How many of you would like a copy of the Google Doc I was using? Would you guys like that? Because I can just email you. Okay.
Yep.
So I can just send you out an email with that.
That's great.
Because I tried to screenshot everything as I was going through and creating this, just so you can see kind of what to expect.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So that's that for me. I hope that was helpful.
It was very helpful.
I'm going to stop recording, but we don't have to hang up yet.